I'm sorry? Do you just say, is that what the normal one is, just certifying that you're going back into? Okay. So I'm gonna do a roll call vote to certify that, what was discussed in closed session was what was, named. Mr. Townsend?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Stiff?
Yes.
Dr. Arrietty?
Yes.
Ms. Kimbrough?
Yes.
Ms. Carson?
Yes.
Dr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Sorry for the delay. It happens like that sometimes, but we're all glad to see you all here. We're going to start with standing and saying the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Certify the closed session. Okay. I need a motion to approve approval of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve. Second.
Any second? All in favor? Now we're going to number 8, awards and awards and recognitions and accommodations. Introductions.
Yes, so we have a Sandee Draper express card from the high school tonight. We have someone to talk a little bit about that.
Good evening. My name is Ms. Kernicki. I'm the lead SPED teacher at the high school. I'm also the transition coordinator. I have a few special guests with me tonight. I have Trey White, Lanaya Thompson, and Jonathan Crenshaw. These students, Ms. Draper started the coffee cart to allow the adaptive class an opportunity to gain real-world experience handling money as well as food while learning these topics in their class. After Ms. Draper passed away, Ms. McCoy-Chicks revitalized the cart and renamed it the Sandee Draper Express in honor of our late adaptive teacher and transition coordinator. This cart allows the students to gain job experience that promotes career readiness skills. This year, the coffee cart is running twice a month instead of once a month. They have one snack cart, which is offered during activity period to the teachers, as well as the coffee cart, which we've had. If students don't want to participate in walking around handing out the snacks and breakfast items, they're allowed the opportunity to do inventory on the cart in the classroom. Teachers will fill out a Google form with what they would like to order, and then our students will go around and hand out that order and collect the money from the teachers. If a teacher in the career tech building, because we offer it to them as well, if they order, the students will put together a little tray and bring a tray over to them so we don't have to bring the whole cart over to them. But students are tasked with adding up the total items, how much it costs, as well as delivering the items to the teachers. All of the money that is collected from the sales of the cart is deposited into the life skills account, which is used to replenish the cart so we can keep doing this for all the teachers. But these are our students who are working very hard to keep this cart going, and we also have Ms. Thurston Foster back there who works with the students in the classroom as well on these skills.
Well, I can attest the coffee's delicious. I had some last year, and it's delicious. Thank you.
So I just wanted to say that they were kind enough to invite me to come over, and I actually got to go on 5 or 6 stops with them, and the oatmeal cream pie was delicious. Don't know that I should have that for breakfast, but it was great. So it's a wonderful program. It really is.
All right, I have one. Last month, we all kind of received certificates from the VSBA, and we apologize that we didn't have Dr. Corbett's certificate there, so certificate of recognition from the VSBA is presented to Timothy Corbett as serving as a delegate in the 2024 VSBA Delegate Assembly. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. Thank y'all for coming. Thank you for coming.
That's what I asked when I went, I can double check with the other bit.
Check this out.
We're checking to see if we have anyone who signed up for public participation.
No, sir, no one.
No one? Okay. Well, we're gonna move along here. All right, okay. We have the consent agenda. I need someone to, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I so move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, seconded.
Ms.
Ms.
Stiff.
Stiff, okay. All right, all in favor? All right. Financial receipts? No, not financial, my bad. Action items, I've gone down to the end, number 11, I'm at number 11. Approval for, additional appropriation, Ms. Jones?
Good afternoon, Mrs. Carson, school board members, Dr. Cox. This afternoon, I stand in front of you requesting permission to actually go before the Board of Supervisors for additional appropriations in the total amount of $408,500, which includes the school-based mental health grant of $158,500, which was spoke upon on last board meeting by Mrs. McClure, and the other one is our is for $250,000, our school security equipment grant.
I move that we approve these additional appropriations as presented.
A second.
Second. All right. All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. B, PECPS literacy plan, Ms. Garrett.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Cox, and members of this school board. I am here with you again to do a very brief update to the division literacy plan. We've looked at the plan, and we also talked about the state gave us some recommendations. So we've actually included some of those recommendations here, and I just want to go through it very briefly with you all. The overview of the update, section 1, they talked about adding a provision for quarterly communication. We've been doing that. I think every meeting we've talked about the division literacy plan. The next one is talking about the high quality instructional materials. They wanted us to talk about specifically what is used for some of our student groups, students with disabilities. So we've made that change into the plan. And then just how we're going to talk about the plans for parents. So in here, this is section 1. You can see where we highlighted it in your copies, what we added for the quarterly updates. In section 2, this is where on this part, it just said that it would be the same as general population. So I have added the actual specific parts here. So if our L students, gifted students, and students with disability will be using the same, it lists it. If there's anything specific to those students, for example, our students with disabilities are going to use Magnetic Reading Foundations 2023, which is on the approved list. That's going to be specific for them. That is listed there, so that we're able to denote the difference between the two. And then here, we've actually have added a paragraph that talks about the letter that goes home to parents, inviting them to the meeting for their reading plans at the elementary school, and then some family resources, and those are linked as well. So then this plan will replace the plan upon approval on our webpage, so parents can then link to those resources. Any questions about the updates that we have to this plan? If there are no, yes, I'm
I
sorry.
have one.
Mhm.
When you talk about high quality instructional materials, how are they designated high quality? And I did hear you say something about the list, from the approved list. Is that what you use to determine that they are high quality?
So VDOE determines whether they're high-quality instructional materials, and they give that list to us, and then they state, these are the materials you are able to select from. Yes, sir.
You said in your introductory comments that you accepted some of the recommendations. What were some that you rejected and didn't accept?
I'm sorry, I misspoke. We accepted all of the recommendations.
Good.
They gave us very few recommendations, so these were the recommendations they gave, and we included all of the recommendations.
Smart move.
Yeah. Yes.
Not a question, but a comment. We'll just need to change the date on the plan to the 4th. It says the 3rd. That's just the only.
Okay.
After we approve it, just before it goes to DOE.
Okay, we can do that.
Small thing, but just could come back and look only.
Yeah, we need it to be the correct date.
Tuesday board meeting, like what?
Any other,
Any other questions for Ms. Garrett?
so then I would ask if we are able to approve this plan with that change.
That change.
Motion to approve the literacy plan as presented, changing the 3rd of December to the 4th of December.
Second. All in favor?
Thank you so much.
All right, we're down to non-action items.
That's me.
All right, Sue.
VSBA had 6 policies for us to take a look at. We met, the first 2, if you notice, we just actually passed those 2 about the remote learning about 2 or 3 months ago. It's back on here because VSBA has added a requirement that these 2 particular policies have to be voted on yearly. So if we vote on it tonight, or next month in January, because it's action tonight, just information. If we vote on it in January, then from January 2026, 27, 28, we will need to remember to put this back on the agenda in January of every year. That's the only change that was made to either one of those.
You said remote learning, but it's actually
I mean, it's remote participation. You're right,
Okay.
I meant remote participation. I had remote learning in my brain. The rest of the other 4 are very minor changes, but I encourage you to take a look at them. They're listed there on your agenda before we vote on them next month. And if you have any questions, let me know ahead of time and I can see if I can answer them. Yes?
Are we gonna fill in the blanks, those blanks?
Oh, yes, those blanks always I've asked Mrs. Lee about that. The blanks get filled in after we approve it. She goes in and then changes where it says blank to Prince Edward County and all that. Yes?
I just have a simple question.
Yes.
What happens if we forget next January?
Well, I'm gonna put a reminder, I'm gonna try to set several reminders and also try to remind Ms. Lee. And maybe if we remind a whole bunch of other people, then we won't forget. But technically, if we forgot, then we would have to we'd have to vote on it again. It would not be in effect in February of 2026 if we don't vote on it in January of 2026. No one would be able to participate remotely if we don't bring it up every year.
I was afraid we would be arrested.
We will not get arrested. But if you're at home and sick and need to participate remotely, you wouldn't be able to.
It wouldn't be legal.
It wouldn't be legal, yes.
Any other questions for Ms. Kimbrough?
Just please read them before next month, okay? That's it.
All right, we're gonna go to information items. Elementary school construction update. Mostly officer.
November. Contract was signed that date as well. And also had the pre-construction conference, which we started the project in earnest. I know Mr. Good's been involved in that. I think Dr. Cox has maybe been involved in some of that as well. Had the groundbreaking on the Monday before VSBA on the 18th. And that was a really nice affair down here. Lots of really good participation as well. And then some of the wrap-up work has been happening in the mobile classrooms. I think that some of that camera work has been completed. Some really good news. We kind of wrapped up abatement on buildings E and F. If demolition did not start today, it'll start, within the next day or so. So demolition is pretty well completed. We had one piece of work.
We got a test result back for today, which came back negative, which is fantastic. Yeah. So abatement should be absolutely completed by Friday.
All the permits have been issued, so English is really moving forward now. And then we have ECS on board as well to do all the materials testing and special inspections. So they'll act as kind of the third party construction materials testing and special inspector, really the owner's testing agency as part of the project as well. So they'll be testing concrete pours, they'll be testing masonry, they'll be testing steel connections, those kind of things. To make sure the contractor and the subcontractors are performing the work that's required by code and also the construction documents.
Yeah, they'll start being on site this January.
And they're kind of on site as needed, so English and will coordinate through our office when they need to be on site to perform that testing as well. Just some procedural things about how often you'll see us down here as well. We'll be leading all the project meetings, so we'll have project meetings down here twice a month. Until there's a construction trailer set up, I think the meetings will be held in this conference room twice a month. And then we'll be down as needed over the course of construction. So there are construction issues that come up that we need to be involved in. We're an hour away. We'll be here to help facilitate the resolution. As we've talked about, and there'll be some things that pop up over the course of construction that either unforeseen conditions or those things that just kind of happen over the course of kind of complicated renovation projects. So we'll be involved to facilitate the resolution of those things and find solutions quickly in the field as well. All the communication really will go through our office between the contractor and you all, so we kind of facilitate that. David Hart, who was involved from our office from the in the mobile classroom project, he's the construction contract administrator. So really our role going forward is to administer the construction contract between Prince Edward County Public Schools and English Construction. So we're there to make sure that the contractor does what they're supposed to do, and when there are any issues or disputes that may arise, which we don't anticipate, but you never know, construction's complicated sometimes and can be contentious, but we've got a great contractor on board. If anything comes up, we're there to kind of help navigate those discussions over the course of the project. Again, we'll have twice a month progress meetings. We'll be approving pay applications. And then sending those to Dr. Cox and Mr. Good for approval and processing and payment. We'll be keeping the record of the project in terms of project meeting minutes, submittal logs, when we receive submittals, when submittals are returned back to the contractor, requests for information over the course of the project, so there may be some questions that come up that the contractor will submit to us, and then we'll help facilitate the answering of those as well. Progress meetings have been scheduled for the first and third Tuesdays of each month at 10 o'clock, starting here, and then when a construction trailer is located, we'll be having those in the construction trailer. The third Tuesday, the second project meeting, the third Tuesday meeting will be the beginning of the pay app review. So David and our team will walk in the site at that point to look at the progress being made during construction, make sure that aligns with what the contractor is being asked to be paid that month. So we want to make sure we don't pay the contractor any less or any more than what they're due, and make sure we keep those things kind of aligned as well. And we had the first progress meeting yesterday.
Yes.
So everything's off and running. So so far so good. In terms of next steps, again, the notice to proceed was issued on the 12th. We're almost a month into construction now. Again, abatement was primarily the primary activity that's been happening on buildings E and F over the last couple weeks, and we should start to see demolition happening as well. Construction fencing is being installed, and there'll be some additional fencing that'll be installed over the next week or so as well to further delineate construction activities, excuse me, and where school happens. And then we'll provide phasing updates as the project progresses as well. So we've talked to Dr. Cox about being down here in addition to the progress meetings and kind of the hands-on meetings. We'll be planning to come down here quarterly to provide school board updates over the course of the project. If there are any issues that we need to be involved in beyond that, we'll certainly do that. But you'll see Jen and me, quarterly going forward for formal updates and anything that we might need to discuss. But yeah, so far so good. Great contract on board, really good group of subs, and it's been very smooth so far. Yes, sir.
I'm unfamiliar with the word abatement in architectural constructions, though I know the word generally, but it must have a technical meaning as you're using it, and I was just wondering what.
It is. We had a hazardous materials consultant on board who surveyed all the existing buildings to identify likely locations of materials that would need to be removed. So not a lot. There was some floor mastic. There was some caulk that had lead and maybe some abatement in it. There was some wall adhesive that had some materials that needed to be removed. So that's what abatement is in our world for this project. So that was all part of the construction documents. So we had probable locations identified in the construction documents. We had directions to the contractor and their subcontractor on how that material should be removed safely before we started to introduce construction activities in those spaces. So that work really, I guess, concluded really the last day or two in buildings E and F.
Well, I think they're gonna finish on Friday, because
Okay.
they're waiting on the test results. They found some insulation that was questionable, but it was fine, so they can move forward.
Asbestos?
I mean, the insulation they thought might have asbestos in it.
But it didn't.
It did not. Yeah.
Once demolition actually starts on E and F, when will they be gone?
They should be
How long
gone
will it
by.
take?
They should be gone, if not by the end of the year, sometime into January.
So it won't take long.
It will not take long to knock those buildings down.
No.
Once all the hazard materials, again, the hazardous materials were in very isolated locations. That's all will be all removed by the end of the week. At that point, I just start knocking them down and removing the materials. So they should come down within 4 to 6 weeks.
Good, okay.
So you'll
And
start
then
seeing
once
it.
we do that, it's all
Off to the
systems go.
races. That's
Off to
right.
the races.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So there'll be
Grading will happen next.
Okay, that's boring. Grading is so boring.
the project sign should be installed within the next week or so.
Good.
So there'll be some images on the street there about.
Good.
Then we've got a nice image at the front door, main entry, and project team located and everything. So it'll really start to look official between now and the end of the year.
Question,
Yes, ma'am.
you talking demolition. What time will it be happening during the time the kids in school? What's the time frame for that kind of demolition?
Noisy activities. Right now, it will happen kind of during big work hours, which is kind of 6:30 to 3:30. They'll be working primarily from east to west. So there will be some noise involved, and we've got some language in the contract documents as well. So if they're testing activities or anything that's kind of instructionally sensitive, they've got to work around those hours. And English has done this kind of work before too, so that they'll be certainly willing to work with the school in terms of trying to tailor those hours, those activities around any kind of sensitive construction or instructional activities that might happen over the next month or so. The good thing is we'll be out of school for a couple weeks during that time too, so it could very well be that some of those interior demolition activities will happen. So if there's things to be removed inside the building that might be recyclable, that there might be some benefit in terms of recycling, in terms of plumbing fixtures and other materials like that. So then maybe some of the louder activities might happen over the course of the holiday break.
Please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Maybe y'all can't answer and that's okay, but maybe somebody will, but if they can't, maybe next meeting. I just wonder, how is the learning college life going? Like, I'm just curious, what is it like? Are they enjoying it? Like, because I see them traveling, with the new route, like
Right.
when I'm in the pickup lines and such, but I don't know, I'm just curious, it's like, how's it going? Like, and they look really nice, and I'm just curious as to how it's.
I was gonna commend them, that's.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Just how the cottages look.
Yeah, they look
and
great.
just the teachers there, we got to tour the
Yeah.
cottages and
The
just
meet
how
and
the
greet,
kids
they're
just
great.
are just vibrant, energized, all the classrooms that I got to go into and visit the particular day. And I was gonna commend just the construction, just how they're positioned, everything about the learning colleges.
Well, thank you.
They far
Fantastic.
exceeded my expectations.
Yeah,
I mean,
mine.
I taught in a trailer one time.
Right.
Was
They've come
impressed.
a long way with mobile classrooms
So
in
this-
the last 25 or 30 years.
They have, and this is the first time this particular unit has been used in Virginia.
Wow.
It's
I
a brand
believe
new
it will be a
unit
model.
from, and it's,
I mean,
they go together quicker, they come in on a tractor trailer, they're like an 8-foot by 20-foot, or 8-foot by 40-foot module, I think. They have the ability to have more natural light introduced as
They
opposed
do.
to what we all kind of think of those kind of facilities are
And
awful.
they're so much larger, Kanan, than I thought they were gonna be. Much larger, and I would not have minded teaching in one, I'll be honest. They were
I just wanna know, who's thought of the name Learning Cottages? I just think it's just
so much better than trailers.
Yeah.
That was a great idea.
It has evolved over the last decade. And then I think enough of us who are, are longer in the tooth, who have called them trailers in the past, have been admonished enough over the last 10 years. They went from trailers to temporary classrooms to learning cottages. So,
Learning cottages, really good.
and that's become pretty standard kind of language now, which is good.
We haven't had construction, so we.
And certainly these units are not trailers.
They are not. You are right.
They were really legitimate temporary classrooms.
And they're really nice.
Really nice.
And again, the first time they've been used in Virginia, so I think we are the guinea pig.
Yeah.
And so far, so good. I think they've turned out really well.
Okay.
I had one more
Yes, sir.
question, and you may not be able to answer it tonight, maybe next time you come for an update. It's just how the improvement is gonna be on the student pickup and drop off. Just if you can maybe.
Well, long term, it'll be much better. I think there'll be challenges over the next couple of years. English has been trying to set up their construction logistics plan to not make it worse. So I think as it is right now will be pretty status quo over the course of construction. And then certainly by at the end of the project.
That's what I'm.
At the end of the project,
how's it going to improve?
end of the project, we provided more on-site queuing area because the front door has been moved much more inboard of site. We've got stacking for probably 25 or 30 more cars getting them off Pine Hill Road. It'll be much better. Yes, sir.
So just a note, so I had a chance to work with English a little bit today on the phone, and they are not only very accommodating, but I think really kind of understand students and parents and that kind of thing. So it's even the fence that you referenced earlier. So in working with our transportation in English and the middle school and the elementary school and food services, it was decided by everyone that it was best to not do that fence until 12/18 when we're at school.
Right.
And then that also sets up the transportation modifications for the 7th. So we're back on the 6th, but it's a staff development day for the 7th. But I mean, I think they're very good with those kinds of conversations, and I kind of felt like we've really kind of struck a balance between knowing that things need to go forward with construction, but also student safety, logistics, parents. I believe they're very sensitive to that. So that's how I felt about the conversation today and the meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
So.
English has done a ton of schools, and they've done a ton of complicated schools like this too. And they are very much, again, like you said, Dr. Cox, we got to get the job done at some point, so there'll be some inconveniences, but they really are interested in making it as inconvenient as possible over the course. It's a school still has to function, needs to be a good learning environment. We need to minimize disruption. Excuse me, and when there are disruptions, we all need to know about those disruptions so that we can plan accordingly. I think folks are typically willing to work with those kind of inconveniences as long as it's not a surprise. That's what you don't want is a surprise. You can plan for it ahead of time and we can all work through it, and English is very good at that.
Great.
Well, we'll be down here as needed, but we'll plan to kind of give this kind of formal update with lots of things, you know, quarterly going forward. And again, you know, our team will be here, you know, twice a month to facilitate progress meetings. And once stuff comes out of the ground, we'll be down here for kind of above ceiling inspections and those kind of things. So we'll be down here over the course of construction to make sure English is doing what they're supposed to do. So, and they will. They're a great contractor. So. Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.
We're gonna move on to the information item. B, yes, Prince Edward County Public Schools, VA, Department of Ed, 2020 School Survey Equipment Grant. Mr. Good, you can sit down.
You just went back up. We're good now. You're good. We're good now. We're good now.
Is the stream down?
It's back up.
It went back up.
It's back up. Just went
Drop that for a minute.
Thank you.
I just didn't want to. Stop it.
Good evening, Ms. Carson, School Board Chair, Dr. Cox, and members of the board. Prince Edward was, I guess, lucky to get $250,000 for school security grant for this year. Actually, it's not $250,000 because we have to pay 25%. So you have to deduct $62,000 from that. But the use is going to be primarily to upgrade our camera systems inside and around the school, adding cameras in our parking lots, adding additional keyless access entry ports around the schools, and that's pretty much what it is. And it's very, very expensive. You should have received a breakdown of high school, career tech center, middle school, and elementary school. They didn't give us a lump sum amount, but you can see how much, if we did all those things, how much it would cost. So we have to go in and figure out how to make sure we get projects done in all 4 facilities. Yes.
Where does the 25% go?
Well, I don't know where it goes. I just know we deduct. No, it's just, I guess our costs.
Local funds, we have to use local funds.
Yes.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure we've used like
Get the 180.
site improvement money.
Okay.
Get 180.
Does the grant just pay for the purchase of equipment, or does it pay for the installation as well?
It covers all of that, equipment and installation.
Since when you add all this up, it's more than 250. How will we determine, or how, where we're gonna, what we're gonna do with it? I mean.
Well, I think the best way to do is look at where the greatest needs are and address those first. I know we have a lot of stuff going on at the elementary school, so they might be at the bottom tier, because we really don't know how construction is going to affect whatever we do there.
Yes.
Some things will be done there. We just need to make sure that whatever we do as far as adding cameras will fit in with the new construction.
And we can move them?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. Well, will you come back to the board once you have figured out how, specifically how you're gonna spend the $250 and let us know that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay.
Okay, other questions from Mr. Good? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate that.
You take your time, please, by all means.
Okay, we're at number C on the information items. Presentation of high school, that word is what? That word is what? You'll say it, you'll pronounce it for me.
I sure will, yes ma'am,
Okay.
absolutely. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Chris. If I haven't had the chance to meet you yet out and about in the schools, I am one of our ITISs here at the school district. So my job is to blend in technology, working with our teachers, and getting our kids using technology to further their education. I think we should be good. There we go. So I was very honored to, in November, we had Tom Lamford, from PBS Blue Ridge came to visit us. And he runs a podcast. He's the host of a podcast, and it is a partnership between VDOE, the Virginia Society of Technology Education, best known as VSBA, and of course PBS. And what they do is they go around the Commonwealth and they talk to educators who are blending technology and innovating education for students. And they came and saw us. And so I was really honored to be able to talk to them about our homage table. The T is silent, that's what I've learned. The T is silent, I don't know why, but we're going with it. So, in talking with folks and saying, oh, PBS is coming, we kind of realized that people don't realize what this is. So the homage table is in the CTE building, and it looks like a clinical table. It's got 2 screens on top. It's long and skinny, like you would think like a doctor's clinical table would be. It's touchscreen. And what it is that it is a 3D, as you can see on the screen behind you, it's a 3D body table, if you will. We have 5 cadavers, real life people who donated their bodies to science. They have been scanned in to different things and, throughout the years since they donated their bodies, but the homage is one of the things. Now, why do we have this? What's important about this? It allows us to have the kids dive into the human body, the different systems, how they work together, how it looks, anything. And what's really great about it, since they are real people, there are real things that, we used to have the skeleton, all of us, right, in our anatomy class. That's perfect. It's molded. These people were not perfect. So, someone like our nursing teacher, who I work with quite often, can point out, she's teaching a lesson and be like, oh, look at this. This is, abnormal and things like that. So I get to work with those teachers, help them plan lessons, help them kind of learn the table, because it's a lot, I'm not gonna lie to you, and kind of get comfortable with that, so we get to work side by side with each other. But I can't bring the table into use, so we do also have these 4 tablets that have similar software, and I thought maybe I'd show you a little bit about it, just briefly. So it allows you to manipulate, let's turn everything off, and get down to specific systems. So this is the cardiovascular system. So as you can see, I can turn it and spin it any way I want, because it's 3D, and the kids are much better at this than I am, let me just note. What's great about the tablets is that you can touch things and it will tell you what it is. There's even, and I don't want to do it in front of everybody in case anybody has a weak stomach, but you can also dissect things. So you can dissect anywhere on the body, and you can turn it and see parts that there's no way you would see any other way unless you had a real person in front of you. It's been quite the experience to learn it. It's been amazing to watch our students run with it. We always have kids, there's always one in every class that I've worked with that once we introduce it, they're give me, I want to play. It's because you can only have one person at a time, and it's been great to watch them really develop. And some kids have realized that healthcare, not really their jam, don't want anything to do with it. So the learning goes both ways, but it is pretty amazing. This is only a fraction of what the actual table can do. So if there's ever a time you would like to see it, please let me know. I'll be happy to show you how it works and the things we're doing with it. So,
I've seen it work.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
We're in there.
It's
and
amazing.
It's amazing.
Isn't it amazing?
It was really amazing.
Yes, we showed PBS a heart. Yes, and the kids manipulated the heart rate. And so we talked about the effects it had on the body and overall, what does that do for us? Because the homage table will show the blood flow throughout the whole body and things of that nature, and then looking at the valves and seeing what slowing down a heart rate would do, and it's got an EKG going, and that's like this much of it, and it really is an amazing piece of technology. We are very, very blessed to have it here. I'm very excited to see the kids use it. Yes, sir.
So these images are from an actual person?
Yes, sir.
Can you show us something that is irregular? You said these are not the archetype of human beings, and then if we see, say, an irregular intestine or heart, is it able to project what the perfect one, what the archetype would be? so we can see the difference, so students can see the difference?
So that's a good question, and I'm just gonna straight up tell you, I'm an English teacher, so I don't know lots of medical training. I don't have lots of medical training. I know on the table, one of our cadavers, an Easter egg, if you will, finding out about him is that he's got a deviated septum. So you can zoom into his face and show the kids where the septum is actually split on it, and then you can flip to one of the other our other cadavers who have a normal septum, and so you can compare like that. The cadavers are at different ages. They died of different reasons. Some had cancer, some were lethally injected, actually, which is beyond crazy. One died of a heart attack. So you can compare that heart, to a healthy heart to that. But also what's great about it is that they have the cadavers, but then they also have these case studies where they've got x-rays, MRIs, all sorts of images of people who have donated that information to them. So you can look at different things. When I was a child, I had something called Lake Perthes. And I found an x-ray on here of Lake Perthes, which is a pretty rare disease. Not a lot of people know about it. So it was pretty cool to be able to pull things up and show those sort of things. So on the tablet, not necessarily, because I'm not sure. I think this might be Victor. If it is, then I can show you the septum here. So let me get out of here. Ooh. Scroll down. I need to move you down here. There we go. Takes a little getting used to it. I'm used to doing it on the big table, so stick with me here. Yeah, so you can kind of see. I think this is Victor. I don't know if it's. Oh, it's
frozen.
It's frozen. Oh. No. Oh no.
Dr. Corbett.
Oh no.
You went to medical school.
Yeah, he said. Yeah, you're not showing my nose. Don't show my nose. Absolutely not.
Well, it's cadaver.
All right.
There's no formaldehyde.
No,
Yeah, that's right. None of that going on. I can show you kind of this direction, so you can see a little bit. Let me get a better hold on this so that I threw it on the ground, but he's got a little kind of crack right there across his nose where his septum is deviated. It's easier to see on the table, but you can do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
The tiny little crack right here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But what's really amazing is you can turn on and off the different, I know, it's a little creepy, isn't it? You can turn on and off the different body systems so you can see how the muscles work with the skeleton, and it is really pretty cool. It's very customizable. Animage has great lessons already built that we can pull upon. This is, we have one of 39 in the K-12 environment throughout the Commonwealth. We're one of 39. So that's pretty exciting to have. Harvard has one. Multiple, I should say. I'm trying to think who else. Penn State has one.
Sydney has one.
Do they?
Yeah.
See, I didn't even know that. That's great to know. I'll have to reach out to them. It's amazing. It really is. And our kids, we have a student who participated in the podcast who talked about becoming a surgeon. And he was the one who was like, let me touch it, and so that was really great to hear that he wants to move on, and this really just, he was so excited to get his hands on it. Yes, sir?
I was just wondering how many of the students are going to be exposed to it.
So we started let's see here, we really got it up and running last January, second semester. We've been working with the nursing classes. We had the anatomy classes in there last year.
What anatomy?
The high school anatomy classes in there as well.
When they would normally do
worksheets, textbooks.
Okay.
So now we can have them exploring, like the teacher can have a group up there with her. Like the room is kind of built like a flex space so that she can have a group, he or she can have a group at the table. And then we've got 4 of the tablets so the kids can, there could be groups on the tablets doing their own thing, exploring, answering questions.
So is it mostly for healthcare, those who are interested?
It could be healthcare and sciences. I'd love to see our health teachers using it. And we are working on opening up, there's another app we're exploring with the company that has biology, chemistry, and physics. And it's got experiments built on the table. So things, that would be maybe a little bit more difficult to do, whether it's material, time, cleanup, whatever it can be, we can now have it on the table. So that will be our next big step here in the next few weeks. So,
It's very cool.
It really is. So anytime you miss it, just let me know, okay? I just got notification about an hour ago that our podcast, our episode will be shown on Sunday, and so we'll make sure all that information gets sent out to everybody.
Yes.
Absolutely. Very proud of our kids. They did a great job.
So I just really wanted to commend you. I did have an opportunity to come by for a while PBS was there. But, you know, one of the things you always look for that you really saw in this particular case was just how not only excited the students were, but how engaged they were.
Oh, yeah.
And so we really appreciate everything you do to bring them to that point.
Thank you.
Because really something that you don't really see very often, in particular in high school, I think,
Yeah.
pointed out. So
yeah.
It's kind of nice that Prince Edward is leading the way, and that and you're such a big part of that. So
thank you very much. It means a lot hearing that. So we're gonna keep moving the kids forward. That's what I keep saying. We're gonna keep moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, girls, oh, you're already there.
I'm already stood up. I'm right ready.
It is, I didn't have you ready. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Cox. This afternoon I'll be talking with you about the new accountability framework that we're under for this academic school year. So on this slide right here, you can see the table of contents I'll cover. I'm going to give you a brief overview of it, then go into some of the details of mastery, growth, readiness, talk about the 3 E's, which is pretty much specific to the high school, and then we'll look at a hypothetical model for to use last year's data in the new framework. Where would we fall? So when we talk about the accountability system, the new one, we often hear this term called bifurcation. And bifurcation basically is 2 separate but interrelated systems. And they separate the standards of accreditation from the student outcomes. Prior to the updated framework, in this graphic organizer right here, you'll see that they were married together or mixed together. I highlighted in the yellow right there some wordings from the DOE. It says the current operational compliance indicators are mixed into students' academic performances. And in the new framework, they separate them. And that's what we can see in this graphic organizer. So they take things like the compliance criteria and separate it from the student outcomes. And the compliance criteria could be anything from teacher-student ratio, teacher licensure, and so forth, where you could be not accredited for that. So they separate them and really focus on the federal accountability system, which is student outcomes. Now, I'm going to go back actually to this slide before I go to the next slide. This next slide I'm getting ready to show you is going to show you how the framework is divided up among mastery, growth, and readiness. And they count or they weigh differently at the elementary school compared to the middle school compared to the high school. So this right here, this slide will detail that. What you really need to know is that out of 100 points, anything 80 and above means you're on track, 90 and above is distinguished. If you are below 80, you're off track, and below 65, you need intensive support. So what's common among the elementary and middle school is mastery, growth, and readiness. At the high school, it is mastery, readiness, and graduation. So talking a little bit more in detail about the mastery component is really, oh, I'm sorry, I went one slide too far. It's talking about SOL achievement. So that's what we've been familiar with is SOLs. What is neat about this is that they give credit now for things like below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced. So there's different categories within achievement for the mastery component. And so a student that scores advanced on the SOL will get 1.25 points compared to a student that maybe scores basic will get 0.75. As I was saying earlier, it is broken up different among the settings. Elementary, Reading and math is 22.5 points or percent points. And middle school, mastery will count 20. And at the high school, for reading and math, it counts 15. What's common among them is science counts 10% or 10 percentage points overall. You can see the total there.
ELP.
And the ELP, which
What is that?
That's English Language Proficiency
Okay.
for our ELL students.
Can I ask another question right quick?
Mhm.
But I don't wanna move forward. On the slide back up before that, on the points given to each child who takes the test and scores that way, is that different from what we've been doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's way different.
Way
different.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So the total there, what you should, what I'm going to point your attention to is at the high school, SOLs only count 50% of the total. So you're going to be looking at other ways to get that other 50%, and I'll tell you about that as we go through this presentation. Okay, so the other part is growth. Now, growth is not available at the high school, and you can see that here on this slide. And growth is determined by VBOS. VBOS will give an expected growth for the students to achieve. If they achieve that, they'll get 1 point. If they go above it, one standard error, they can get 1.25 points. If they go below it, they get a half a point. If they go below, well below the standard error, they don't receive any credit. And you can see growth is different at the elementary compared to the middle school. This is the readiness component. And so when we talk about readiness at the elementary and middle, that is going to be totally different than the high school. So this will start telling you how the high school can get those additional points here. So when we look at the elementary and middle school, chronic absenteeism, it says 5% there, but actually it counts 10% this year because we do not have the 5C component in place. The 5C component will be in place next year.
What's that?
That is the 5 C's of like what we were familiar with like 2 or 3 years ago with create. It's more likely it's going to be a project-based assessment, and it's going to be talking about collaboration, communication, citizenship, things like that, and creativity.
And we'll have that next year?
That's coming next year.
Okay.
Well,
So for this coming year at the elementary school, well, all down the line, or elementary and middle, it'll be 10%?
It's 10%. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. This year it is. So when we look at the high school, we can see that they don't have this readiness component like the middle school and the elementary does. We look at the 3 E's. The 3 E's you can see there counts 25% of the total. So it is a significant part of the accountability factor. Graduation, and then the readiness 6-year graduation with applied studies. And I'll go more into detail of the 3 E's and one.
Just the graduation rate, is that a percentage of students graduating with their cohort?
Well, it's the federal graduation index. So and it goes with the cohort.
And so you're based on, it's cohort based?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, so we are in the advanced coursework. The advanced coursework right now at the middle school is math.
Yeah.
And so you have more students that are taking these advanced courses. You get credit for that. You're really taking high school credit courses in the middle school setting. Next year, I believe they are going to broaden that to science and social studies or history. So right now it's just math. So the 3 E's which really took place of the 3 C's, which was the college career and civic readiness. Now we have the 3 E's, employment, enrollment, and enlistment. Now there's a lot on this slide right here that you guys have access to, but so I don't take up the whole night. Really, it's just on this slide we see points for achievement in specific categories. And one way it's very easy to see is like if you look at the employment, if you look at the 0.75, that is a CTE completer who also earns a state-approved industry recognized credential in a high-demand field. So they would get a 0.75 compared to if they get if a CTE completer that gets a recognized credential in a high demand, high wage field, now you're getting 1 point. If you add work-based learning to it, those points go up. So the most points you can get out of any of them, you can see was 1.5, and that's a CTE completer who also earns a state-approved industry recognized credential in a high demand, high wage, and also work-based learning placement. So you can see where CTE is definitely becoming very important as we enter into this new framework.
Seems like that would affect. It seems like that would be impacted by the environment, the local environment, to a great extent. Seems like there would be those types of jobs and things would be more available, say in Northern Virginia than they are in Central Virginia.
Especially the work-based portion of it.
Right.
That we wouldn't have access to some of the high-demand, high-wage fields that students might have an opportunity to do work-based improvement. I mean, that feels to me like that's a...
Yeah, that sounds like a catch-up for Central Virginia. For the rural areas, we'd have to.
Yeah, I imagine a
really
lot of them are struggling with that. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
I imagine a lot of them are struggling with that. Yes, sir. It's really dependent upon not so many how many kids you can get out there. It's just how many kids you do introduce to it. So because not every kid's
exposure.
Yes, sir. This is a crosswalk of really everything I just explained, and you guys can. I think it's a good graph that really just takes everything and puts it into an appealing image or graph overall. So this is where we fall right now. If we were taking last year's data and we put it into this new framework, this is where our schools would have fell. And again, remember the 80 is the on track. So we are very, very close.
Very close. I was pleased when I saw this last slide.
Yes, me too. And so when I've spoken to some principals, and I'm saying, you see that the emphasis is, of course, the SOLs are still very important, but the emphasis is more well-rounded student and not so much, singular on a test. So we are, if you look at the high school, 0.2 of a point from being, the elementary school, 0.2 of a point. High school is 1 point, is it 1.4 there? Yeah, so we are very close, and the middle school 3 points from getting that.
Do they round, Mr. Paulson?
Yes, they do.
So the elementary school, if those had been our numbers, they would have rounded it?
Yes, they would have. I know that for a fact.
Okay.
So yes, they would have rounded up, and they would have been on track. So, any questions?
I'm sorry.
And one time, I was listening to the news and they were talking about the new accreditation system, and they said that a lot of our schools now would not have met the accreditation. Did I hear that wrong? Did they do a lot of go back and do changing? So maybe they would make it?
I heard that too. I heard that a lot of them would not be on track, and I'm not sure if they went back and did any finagling to change that outcome. But I know they did some. I do know they did some late stage, tweaking to it. So I don't know if it was because of that, but I do know they did late stage tweaking to the framework. Yes, ma'am.
Training for teachers.
Yeah.
When, and how much, and how soon? To me, this is complicated. Now, maybe because my brain is up there, but I can see confusion to some degree and unpreparedness because of training is not as intense as we would like for it to be due to various constraints, within opening schools and getting into the classroom and meeting all of these other requirements. Talk about what's on tap for training.
For getting this information to principals and teachers?
Absolutely, to the point where they can use it. Because this starts in 526.
No, no,
We're under it now.
It's
It's
under
under,
this
we're in
now.
it now.
We're in it now.
We're in it
Okay.
now.
Have they, what are they saying? What are the teachers, what are the principals basically saying about how this is working for them?
So, Ms. Garrett and myself, we've provided some training to principals already and faculty. It's a learning curve. You know, when I was speaking to one of the principals yesterday with some of the SOL results, and this is preliminary now, where they got 92% of the possible points, and under this new framework, and it was 15 points total they could have got from this SOL, and they got 13.22, I believe, points out of the 15. And it was you know a welcomed surprise that this is students get credit now just for performing basic. If they perform basic, you're going to get 0.75. If you get below basic, I think it's 0.25. So students are being recognized for their achievement even if they don't get proficient. So it's been a welcomed overall, and that you're not just looking at one particular test, you're looking at a well-rounded student. So I can't speak for all the faculty, but I can let you know that the principals I've spoken with it's good. It's a nice surprise for them.
And how do we explain this to students to let them know that we are on a new track of getting them credit for what they do? How have we encouraged them, or what are we doing to encourage them to be all that they can be under this new system?
Under this new system. I'm not sure if the principals have, spoken to students about this or not. I'm not aware of that.
And at the end of the year, this will be what we will see.
Yes.
That will give us some element of, well, for the sake of old term, being accredited or not accredited or accredited with conditions.
Yes.
How would those titles be used and utilized to tell us where we really are?
It's those right here. If you look at this this slide right here, it will tell you if we're on track, off track, distinguished, or
So that's what we're gonna be
knowing now.
Yes.
That's what we would hear instead of accredited.
New job, new
Yeah,
terms.
if we're on track, off track,
On track, off
or need
track,
intensive
be
support.
or get on track, whatever it is.
Get on track.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I taught under a similar system, accountability system in North Carolina, and with regard to growth, and it's VBOS here, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so they make a predictor score at the beginning of a year for a child of what they predict they will do on the SOL.
Yes, they make a projection.
A predicted score. And then at the end of the day, you see where they came out. In North Carolina, we, as a teacher, we got we called it
That's right.
data. And there was a line, and you wanted your line to be up here, not red back down here. So that actually, each teacher knew what kind of impact they had on the growth of children, whether they had a positive impact or a negative impact, actually. Are our teachers, going to be provided with that information? And if so, that really does need to be explained to teachers. That's number one. And number two, will teachers have access to the predicted score ahead of time? So I've got Johnny, I'm teaching Algebra 1. He is predicted to make, I don't know what they're called. He's expected to make the basic between 400,
499.
395
and I know that ahead of time. Or will I know that ahead of time? Will I, as a teacher, have access to that data ahead of time or not?
No, we've so I've already gave those projections to the high school. I've met with each group of teachers for
So they do have it.
subject area. Yes, and I did elementary, and tomorrow I'm doing the middle school.
And will they, at the end of the year, get that sheet that showed what kind of impact they had on
Yes.
students?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
And I don't remember, but is that part of the teacher evaluation here in Virginia? The impact on growth?
I mean,
That I might have to defer to
it's
Ms.
part
Garrett.
of, it's
She's
part of, it's part of the evaluation, but at this point, we're not using VVOS, which is the same as EVOS.
Yes, right.
It is the
Yes.
exact same, it's just we put a V in front of it
That's
for
right.
Virginia. But at this point, we're not using that measure because this is so new
Right,
to us.
okay.
But growth is part of our
Okay.
teacher evaluation system.
Okay, all right, thank you.
all right.
So now we have to learn the new terms.
New terms.
Distinguished,
on track. So our goal is on track for
Our
that. Well, I mean, our
goal
goal
is
is distinguished.
We would love to be
But to get
distinguished,
to
yes.
on track first and then be distinguished.
And I can tell you, I've heard a lot of principals say we're gonna be distinguished, so that's what we're heading,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
And the three E's, they need to be aware of those E's, you know, enrollment, employment.
Enlistment,
Yes,
enrollment,
enlistment.
employment,
Yeah.
enlistment, yep.
And really pushing the CTE because you get so much credit for
Yeah.
not just the APs and the dual enrollments and all that, which is, you know,
It's good.
you need both.
Yeah,
It needs to be
yes.
both.
And you can, you can double dip in regards to,
Yeah.
into like, your employment, you get so many points, and then if they also was doing something like enrollment, you're gonna get credit there too, so you can double dip. And, so, it's always pushing, look and see how much we can grow our students, so,
Absolutely. Well, I've heard a lot of negative things about it. I quite frankly, I mean, this feels fairer to schools than just having so much emphasis on mastery of the test.
The test.
Because the test, any test is never the end all to be all, ever.
just think of well-rounded and always pushing for better.
Yes.
And that's what this new accountability system does.
Good.
When does it roll out to the public? Because we are only as good as the public thinks we are.
Well, we gotta tell the supervisors about it. We do. You're right.
You're right.
Well,
We do.
I'm kind of hoping that everybody hears us right now, that we're almost, we're pretty much there. It's like a tenth of a point, so for being on
Yeah,
track.
we're telling them right now, Ms. Stitt.
Yeah, we're telling them right
streaming.
About 200
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm serious when I say that, because out there, wherever there is, out there, they are still on accredited. Well, we aren't using those terms anymore.
Accountability.
We have to stop using those
now
terms.
we have to
With regards to student.
reset the mind and introduce these new terms. When? That's all I'm saying. Soon now.
Yeah,
Well-
so, because if they hear on track, they may not,
No,
that
but
may not
that
mean
ain't.
anything to them, that's true.
It's a very good point. Tonight's a start, because we wanted y'all to see it first. And then I think
Yes, sir.
we do need to all talk as a group about it. So how do we roll it out in a way, you're exactly right. How do we roll it out in a way that the community at large, if you will, begins to understand the terms, see the new terms, and the fact that projection-wise, that's a very important thing to show, I think. So we will work on that. I think that's a
On
very
track
good
is
thing.
good.
Yes.
Yes.
Because that may not sound good to the community, but that is good. I mean, that is, they may not understand it. On track is,
Second step is to
that's
tell
good,
the board of
but,
Just tell them the bottom two and they'll,
We don't wanna be on track or need consensus forward.
Any other questions for Mr. Carson?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
that, and I even understood it, and I read it last night.
I did
kept
too.
looking at it. I was so proud of myself.
Same.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. But thank you for that, all right? Ms. Garrett?
I am just gonna briefly talk to you about, good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Cox, and members of the board, school board again. I just wanna briefly talk to you about, we will be having our biannual meeting with the state superintendent Monday. And so in that meeting, we just really talk about, things that are going well, some things that we think that we've really done well in Prince Edward. for the fall, and then things that we want to see as areas of improvement. So things that you guys have seen a lot of information on is chronic absenteeism. We really think we're moving in the right direction with that. And then our all-in tutoring, you know, we have restructured scheduling completely at the middle school and elementary school. So when you look at our all-in tutoring, they are moving kids through with that and really making some gains. So those are some things that we will focus on, and then just seeing what we need to work with the state on and how they can support us, and things that we are still seeing as areas of improvement. And we know off the top, one of those really is going to be science. We still see science as an area of need for the division. So that's just briefly what we're going to be talking about. Of course, once we have that meeting and we know where we're moving forward, we will bring that back to you, and that'll let us know where we're going to move with our corrective action plan for the rest of the year. So we'll have some things in place that we can bring back to you afterwards.
Thank you. Okay. Update on the superintendent search. And you've been with me since the beginning of this, so I'm just going to briefly go over what we did and where we are now, okay? You remember we had all of our public meetings, and we felt as a board that we did a good job getting it out to the community. We had some small meetings and we had a larger meeting, but we felt like we got it out there so people would know. We wanted to know what the communities had, what they wanted. All that information was turned into the VSBA by November 7th, probably 8th or 9th in there too. We moved some other things back. And on November 13th, we met to establish the qualifications we wanted to see in the new superintendent. And we reviewed the survey and notes from the community meetings that we had. We created a draft document, and that was sent to VSBA with our established qualifications as determined by the board. And they looked at that and they sent it back with some changes they made. Nothing major, just, word spells this and that. There wasn't anything major. And November the 18th, it was posted. The announcement was posted. And they have until December 31st to apply. And we're pretty much on the schedule that we had from the beginning. And that's all I tell you. I talked to Samantha, and the next step is once all of the applications come in, this company, Revis, and I can't tell you the pronounced way to spell it, but the little handbook, your manual, page 41, good night reading before you go to bed. Read about it, and then it tells you what comes next. Because all the applications would go to the VSBA, or they go into this Revis thing, and they collect them. They get information from all of the applications, and by December 31st, we will be able to look at the candidates. And I just want to read you what Samantha said. She said, you will be able to create your profile to prepare to view applications in this program called Revis or whatever. This email will come to the school, to your school board email address. The applications will be available for view by the board members on January 1st within the system. We ask that board members review all the applications prior to the next meeting with Gina and Samantha, which will be January the 15th.
Okay, do we have that on the calendar?
We have that there.
The next meeting with Gina and Samantha
will be January 15th, and it's also
It's our regular school board meeting.
It's regular board meeting.
So
I don't have a time.
You don't have a time, okay.
I don't have a timeline right
Okay.
now, okay? Keeping in mind, no members should be conducting reference checks or reaching out to anyone regarding the applicants. That is something we will do and present to you at our January meeting. So you can go in and look at them, and look at the qualifications and who they are, and what, those things. But that's all you need to know. Don't share it again. This is confidential information, so don't share it with anyone. The biggest key right now is to look for that email in late December to log into the system. But until then, just make sure that if board members are approached by anyone about the application, they should forward that information to VSBA. Okay? If somebody said, oh, I heard y'all looking for a new superintendent. My cousin put their application. Don't respond. Contact VSBA and tell them. You contact Gina or Samantha with an email or a phone call. Okay? So until you get that email to get into the program, to look at the application. But just wanted to tell you from the beginning, they're gonna vet, they've already been looked at, and they're gonna look at it first. They're gonna probably, I'm thinking, they're going to vet them, and then they're gonna bring us the ones that they think will work. But there's some there that you've seen, you said that didn't make the cut, then we can find out. I don't know. Okay?
But we will have access to all of them.
You will have access to all of them.
Good. Okay.
You will have access to all of them. So you can have a nice holiday without worrying about applications and superintendents and stuff. Okay?
We thank you.
You're welcome. And January 5th, did I say 5th?
15.
Okay, good. Thank you, getting down. Good. Yeah, 15, I was saying. Okay. Any questions about that? And again, thank you for all you, I'm sorry, Ms.
I
Terry.
have a question. Is there any record about the Virginia School Board Association's success in finding good superintendents?
Well,
You might can speak to that.
I think he might can speak to that.
But
I
he might be an insufficient sample.
Oh.
I mean, it takes
Our book has, if you look
That's what
at
I'm
the
looking
book,
for.
because the book has a list of all of the
Counties
most
that they-
recent
Yes.
placements that VSBA has done with counties in Virginia, and it's a long list.
It's a very long list.
Well, at the risk of being insufficient,
I'm sorry?
at the risk of being insufficient, I would just say that, I've shared with y'all before, this is the 4th time I've done this. And the 3 other divisions that I've been associated with, Nelson, Colonial Heights, and Prince George, I think they would tell you that it was a very successful process.
I can tell you for sure, Colonial Heights, they were all over him at the VSBA conference the other week, and every time he saw somebody from Colonial Heights, they run up to him. Oh, hi! No, he's ours right now. And they all were very nice in saying how much he helped their county and, find a person.
So I think a better way to answer the question perhaps is that what you're looking at is the process, right? And I would say that I think Virginia School Boards Association has a very good process. I have been through it a few times. And so everything I think Lucy said, from the forms that you did, to the input that you got, to the meeting that you had when you put your qualifications together, all of that factors in it. And now you've got the application process. And so I think what they do is, their goal is to lead you through the process in a way that they will identify through that process successful candidates when you interview them. And that's really what you're looking for as a board, I think, is that if they can get you to that point where you have successful candidates, then y'all have an opportunity then to customize it based on what you want.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about their success in getting us an interim superintendent. I meant the successor.
And that's what I'm.
Permanent.
And that's what he's talking about.
Again, I would suggest you read the rest. We stopped about halfway through this the last time we met. or the first time we met. So go read the rest of it, and then that way we'll explain to you what happens next.
I've been studying it. When do you want them back?
At the end of the process.
When we finish the process.
Oh.
And all notes or anything that you have written, you remember you can turn all that stuff in. You will need to turn everything in at the end of the process. Yes. So. Is it time for me? Yeah. Okay. Where are we? It says me, yeah. Budget development calendar there and budget priorities. I did send a little email to board members. If you have some ideas of budget priorities and you'd like to share them with the group. And that's something that's coming on. I know your hand would go up.
You sent the email.
I know.
Well, I have a couple of things. I'd like for us to take a look at all the pay scales and to make sure they don't need any, if they need some adjustments. But specifically, I would like for us to take a look at removing the school counselors from the teacher pay scale and putting them on their own separate pay scale. And then I would like, and I know this is not specifically budget, but kind of is because it's money. I'd like to have I'd like to know how we spent our CARES money. Like not just in general terms, but I'd really like some specific numbers of how that CARES money was spent. And the all-in grant is that literacy grant, isn't it? I'd like to know how much we have already spent of that, where that has gone, how much is left, and how we are planning to spend that, and any other really grants that we have. And I think it's important that the board know how we are, these are large amounts of money. And I think it's important that we know how they're getting spent. And then lastly, I don't think we have a capital improvement budget. And I'd like for us to prepare one so that we can project and, and we know in the next 24 months, we're gonna need to do these projects. In the next 5 years, we need to do these. What is our 10-year projection? I just hate for us to ever get into a situation that we're in a dire need. I think it's important for the Board of Supervisors to know so that they can help us find funding. And that we need, in addition to our operating budget, a capital improvement budget. That's all.
Ms. Jones, can the school have capital improvement budget?
We do?
You can have one.
You can
Oh,
have
yeah,
one.
yes.
You can.
And the money that, at the end of the year, if the money's left over, we have to turn that into.
That goes back to county.
County.
And
Is that our capital?
In the past, that money had been going into an account for the renovation of the elementary school. And according to Mr. Stanley, the funds that we did have that was left over, we have actually completed that because going through Mosley, doing all the legwork and everything like that part is completed now. We haven't asked them, this will be we're getting ready to finish out our end of the year audit. So according to what you all would like, I guess you all can ask them to take that money and actually start a capital improvement
Plan.
yes.
Fund.
Yes, fund, yes. So it's kind of how you all would like to do that.
But we may, in 10 years, need a huge renovation at the middle school. I mean, if we anticipate that. It's important, in my opinion, that the Board of Supervisors knows that now, so that it's not, it doesn't become a dire need where the roof is literally falling in. And we know that that auditorium at the high school needs to be renovated. We heard in the meetings that we held for the superintendent about the stadium, the high school football stadium, that they're sitting on concrete seats that were back from the 50s, I think they said, or early 60s. And so it's that kind of thing, and I don't know if the board is the one that comes up with that list, or Mr. Good and y'all's team. Y'all know better than probably we do, but it just not to have and that list is ever changing, because things may pop up that we need to add to it, take away, whatever, but to not have it and to know what we're looking at cost-wise, finding places that we can find money, like this school security grant, where we were able to, that's a capital improvement, isn't it? Okay, making sure I was right.
May I say one thing? Mr. Good would be the best one to explain this to you because he's been here the longest. We do have a CIP plan with the county that they actually send to the superintendent and ask what your wishes are, what you need. We do have that with the county, and they try to include it in their plan. So I think.
So we do have.
We have a capital improvement plan, yeah.
Yeah, because
Well,
the
we haven't seen
county.
No, we don't talk about the capital.
Have I seen it?
Yeah, that comes out with our budget every year.
Yeah. The county actually houses it. It's actually through them, and they send the and I'm trying to remember when the email went out. They actually sent an email to the superintendent asking what are your wishes. But like I said, Mr. Good is more versed in explaining all of that.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
want to misspeak
I understand.
on anything.
Sure.
So, but we do have that with the county.
Okay.
We do have that with the county, so.
And let me, if I may. Do we have a policy? The board is about establishing policy. And frequently of late, it seems as though we're overstepping from a black and white area to a gray area. Now, notice Ms. Jones said certain things are sent to the superintendent, and we are asking and suggesting, and could very well be right. But some things we need to want to do. We don't have a policy giving us the authority, because that's superintendent. Okay. That is not, to some degree, our role, to some degree, and to some degree it may. But we need to be careful if we're stepping out of our role as board to ask to determine where money went and how it was spent, and it's not in our minutes and all that kind of stuff. Do we have a policy that says so? How do we establish those kinds of policies, Dr. Cox?
So I don't know that it's so much a policy.
Okay.
I think it's probably how we decide to work together.
How we decide to do what?
How we decide as a board and a superintendent and a staff to work together.
But we have been trained that the superintendent is responsible for X, Y, and Z. And the board is responsible for the policy or establishing governance to go along with what the superintendent, for the most part, wants. That's the way we have been trained. And we, to some degree, are not staying in our lane.
Does our lane not include I was trained that we had 3 jobs. One was governance, the policies.
Yeah.
2 was the money, the budget part, that we were responsible for the budget. That's why we pass it, and so the money part is our responsibility. And the third one was to supervise the superintendent. That we had 3 main jobs.
We do.
Governance, money, the budget, and
Which aspect, that my thing is, for instance, as I say, when we were talking about something else, and it came up that so much money had been spent a certain way. And Dr. Cox mentioned, I looked in the minutes and I didn't see that. Was that something that was supposed to have been in the minutes? And it wasn't because it didn't come to us as the board for us to decide on, or was it strictly a superintendent's one? That's my point that I
So
made.
my training has been, and maybe everybody's a little different. My training has been is that I bring those kinds of things to the board. I always have. And so when I see that money's spent or is gonna be spent, unless I'm told differently, I'm gonna bring it to y'all for approval. I just always think that's best practice. And so part of that then is part of the budget process. And so you do approve the budget. So when we go through our work sessions and when we do all of that and we get to the end of that, is it February here, maybe?
March.
Yeah, March. Before we send a budget to the Board of Supervisors, as I'm reading the calendar, you approve it as a school board and then it goes to the Board of Supervisors. So that would mean to me that if I got a memo from the county that said something about CIP for superintendent, personally what I would do is I would put it on the agenda of a budget work session and say that's something we need to work on together. That's the way I've been trained, is that I do bring things like that to the board because I do think in that area, you know, partnership maybe is an overused word, but I do think it's something that we all need to weigh in on so that to me then when it goes to the Board of Supervisors, all of us have had an opportunity to take a look at it and say, well, maybe that's not a priority or maybe that is a priority. And I believe if I'm hearing this correctly, if that came to me from the Board of Supervisors or whoever it came from, I would share it with them. I think that's really important to do because I do think that's part of the budget process. I also think that's part of governance for you in that I think that is part of how you govern, is that we take CIP or whatever we take and we roll that into the budget process which you're going to approve, which hopefully you'll approve at some point, and that does become part of governance, I think. So I think the two go hand in hand.
And may I add a little bit to that, Dr. Cox, if you don't mind. I know Ms. Kimbrough asked for a list of everything that's in the grants that we have. Each year, whomever, Mrs. McClure or whomever that governs the grants, they come before the board with the priorities inside of the grant on how the grant money will be spent. We try to stick to that variation of what we're doing with those funds. We try not to go outside of those variations. Right. If we do, sure, we actually amend the grant to meet what we need. So you all do get to see it before it's actually approved, because in order to spend it, you all have to approve it. Okay. So you, in a sense, you do get it. You get it up front to see what we are planning to spend.
But with CARES money, we did not
yes,
do
it. It was. Yes, because we can't spend it unless you all actually see it and approve it. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
It did come before you because it has to come before the board to be approved in order for us to even use it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Townsend, you had a hand up for a while.
Well, I'll go with mine. I can include it in my general. So you probably, if you have something that's more, that's my general budget.
Include your list. I was gonna go over just this list.
Yeah, you went.
I've got quite a bit.
Well, he's got it.
Let him go first. He had this.
I got you. All right.
Okay, come on, one of you.
So tying off into some of the points have already been said, just to not beat a dead horse. Salary scales is also on my list with regards to school counselors, and for high need positions generally, kind of can be up to the discretion of superintendent and staff, kind of on that regard, but just kind of throwing some more money behind getting some of these high need positions filled, STEM teachers, counselors, etc. Money into career tech, so part of that is capital improvement. And actually what I was thinking of was thinking about potentially adding cosmetology and what the steps might be long-term, because every time we bring that up, it's just like, oh, that costs so much money. Okay, well, what can we start front-loading now with regards to that? Maybe there's already a space in the Career Tech Center that could be used for cosmetology, but right now it's a computer lab, right? So what steps do we need to take to gradually move them to a new space to outfit the current space, so that way when we get a $150,000 grant in the future, we're already prepared and in place to do that? Or we can do architectural drawings, which are also expensive, but you could do the drawings and then not do the building immediately after, right? So I get your point about like the gray area, but like, to me, it's all money, and supervisors won't know that we're interested in it unless we put it in our priorities. And so it's kind of a balancing act, but, you know, on track, off track, I get that. We're kind of straddling the track a little bit, but, you know, I think that's important, especially since COVID. I mean, I think the tracks have been very blurry generally, so it's kind of a hard thing to know definitively where we stand. But, so more money for career tech, salary scales. I would love to see some increased money in professional development budget, whatever that looks like with regards to our staff. Teacher support, whether that's in the form of consulting or kind of instructional aids or whatever else, like would love to see some increased money on that. I just wrote verbatim for Quorum counseling, like let's start investing some in that. I know we've got a grant to cover it for, does it cover the next entire school year? Yes. Okay, so maybe that's just something that we just put as a note to the future. We want to start considering building that into the budget, unless we can just hire 8 new school counselors and then we just don't have the need for it. But just as a note to the future, just to think about that.
Yes, good.
And then while Mr. Good was talking, I had kind of written something general about security site improvement, but I just wrote specifically $160,000 for the remainder of that amount that the grant is not going to cover for those things that were listed in Mr. Good's report, because that, just kind of combing through those, it seemed like those were all essential or essential adjacent, and so if it's just a matter of getting another $160,000 to cover that stuff, then we can start working on some of these other things that were deemed maybe not as essential as this. I mean, I think we can help by saying, yeah, let's put in $200,000 to security improvements to match that money that we're already getting through the grant. Continue to put our money where our mouth is. Those are the general list that I had: counseling, teacher support, things of that nature, but just very generalized support.
Mr. Taggart?
Just to piggyback Dr. Cox, what you said about your training, my training was as well, as far as a board team, we should be approving the large expenditures, and if that needs to be put in a policy or whatever. That's just like working collaboratively, like what your training was as well. So that we oversee about $34 million. And our taxpayers are going to want to know that that's being spent on the kids and on the staff. And so just to piggyback what everyone has said, the counselors, safety, security, a lot was addressed in your walkthrough, Dr. Cox, which we really appreciate that. Telephone systems for all classrooms across our division. I don't know if our elementary, if that's in the new renovation, but at the middle school, high school, that's panic buttons, potentially all classrooms and areas with workable door locks. That's going to be addressed. So I was excited to see that. High school auditorium renovated. I went to a production. Our high school students did phenomenal at their play a couple weeks ago. You couldn't hear them. So in the future, if we could put some money, some funds towards our sound system, would include cordless microphones, lavaliers for the plays, production, speakers, drop-down screen with projector for an assortment of activities. Just not that, but for PD, for our teachers, for other programs, an assortment of activities and trainings, our high school athletic fields, middle school athletic fields. Our visitors that come into our division at our schools, where the two most places that they come to is our gymnasiums, our cafeterias, and then also with our students coming into our libraries. So if we can look to see where we can prioritize, we know it can't all be done in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day, but we can prioritize and show our kids and our staff and our community that we're looking to address. LED lighting replacement across our division, where we, over time, it pays for itself, where we're at with that. So additional exterior lighting across the division. I was at the elementary school and I'm excited about the new renovation, and we have an issue out here with exterior lighting across, I know it was in your, you mentioned that too, so I'm excited about these walkthroughs that's taking place, and it's safety, security, but also these other areas across the division and in schools. We know it can't be done in 1 year, but like the capital improvement plan, we can put our priorities together, our heads together, and make it happen over time. And have this vision and excitement continue for our kids and staff and our schools. Our kids deserve the same facilities and same academic and playing fields that Virginia Beach, Suffolk, Richmond have.
Yes, they do.
And it can happen.
Amen.
It can happen.
Amen, they do. Resources for our teachers. I believe there are resources there, but I also believe that one-on-one resources are as needed and as effective as the book and board resources. And I would like to see more one-on-one, person-to-person resources to help with instruction for our teachers as a major priority. And that's being driven by a lot of what I understand teachers say they need, but to some degree are not always able to articulate. And a one-on-one can help them define what they really need. So I'd like to see more one-on-one resource.
Anyone else?
Well, as far as some of those particulars, those usually are things that do come from these facilities themselves and through the superintendent. As far as, but I do think we need to look at capital improvement, especially in the high school. We actually did a lot with the LEDs and those sorts of things a few years ago, about 4 years ago, through Honeywell, and they actually did a lot with that, especially in the middle school, and throughout all of this, throughout the whole division, they did. But the high school would probably need to put some emphasis on that, I think, as far as capital improvement goes in the future. But as far as some of those other particulars, I think they should come from. They're not necessarily governments, but where we're actually, that's not something that, I mean, when they bring it to us, we can decide on what's priority, but I think it needs to come from them. Most of that needs to come from the administrators and the superintendent through the administrator, from the administrators first to the superintendent. But then it comes to the board as we're establishing the budget. So I think that's we have somewhat of a void, and we're going past because we're not really quite following the protocol as we would normally, because all of this would be presented to us as we're establishing the budget. It usually comes, it's brought to the board, and the board gives our input along with the input from the superintendent as well. So we still need to work on the budget and move forward with that, and look at that real strongly.
Ms. Carson, you all do get to see the big ticket items that we actually purchase, because big ticket items, we do have to follow the rules and actually do our bids and bring it before the board. So you all, the big ticket items, they get paid they get approved before we even make, any say so that we can actually purchase them. And in our grants, if we make adjustments to them, especially if they're big ticket items, like, using CARES Act fundings for an example, when we gave the incentives to the staff, that came back before you all to actually have it approved. So if we don't do that, we're out of compliance. So we try to make sure we stay in compliance and doing that. So I just want you all to be aware that we are taking care of that. It may not look like it because we're going through meetings and we're going so fast and we're doing what we're doing, but if you go back, you will see where some of those big ticket items were on the board for board approval, for bidding and all of that. So, and when we did the salaries, when we did the incentive pays to the staff. So.
And we did restructure the salaries for the teachers, but we didn't do, but that makes sense though, to separate out the counselors. But we have looked at the salaries. And we've restructured that quite a bit to actually make that much more competitive than it has been in the past.
Anyone else? I know some of you remember, and then we're gonna finish up here. When it was brought to our attention from Mrs. Shirley Scott Brown about her brother and Coach Scott, and the name the basketball court.
Yes.
That would be one thing. I know it's not academic, but I think that I believe that that's a good idea, and I know it costs money, so I'm bringing it up now so that we could look into it. I know we could ask some people to look at, not necessarily look into it, but we're supposed to set up a check the policy of that, to name something after someone.
We did look at the policy, if you recall, and we were going to put a committee, right, and that kind of fell through the cracks. But I agree with you that at least if that is in the forefront, we ought to know how much it's going to cost if we decided to do it, and have that in the budget in the event we did.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying, that's why I'm bringing it up now.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Because I know it costs to do that, and I think that's one of those feel-good things, I think it would be for the community.
Yes.
You know, that he doesn't deserve it, he has to, all of the information behind all of the things he's done since he was here in one place all those years, you know, mentoring and working with all the boards, all those guys that have grown up to be men, and sure come back and say, talk to Coach, and he will call them son, every one of them.
Well, we should probably put it on the agenda that we establish that committee, maybe in January or February, so that we establish that committee. I'll get the policy to you.
You'll get the policy to me.
I will.
All right, but I do want that on the budget priorities, and like I said, I know it's not academic, it's just one of those things that I think the community would appreciate, because if you ask anybody who's Coach Scott, if they've been here long enough, they know who Coach Scott is. All right, okay, we're gonna move on to the calendar.
Okay. So just some selected items. I'm really looking forward to going to the Academic Jacket Celebration. That's on December the 12th. I believe that's a Thursday night at 6 p.m. The other dates everybody's really looking forward to is December the 18th. That's early dismissal for students. And I know we can't hear people clapping, but I'm sure they are. December 19th through 31st, of course, is winter break. January 1st through 3rd. Teachers come back on January the 6th for professional development, and then our students are back January the 7th. Report cards on the 13th. School board meeting, which Ms. Carson already mentioned, is on January the 15th. Martin Luther King holiday on the 20th, and then we have budget work sessions that follow, school board meeting on the 5th. So anyway, it'll be pretty active when we get back, and of course, pretty active until we get to the budget, until we get to winter break. So that's highlights of the calendar.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go to board member comments. Any comments from board members? Yes, we commented out. I just wanted to thank you for those who did the VSBA convention, whether you did it remotely or you were there in spirit, or you were there for real. It was a lot of fun. We did a lot of things, but it was a lot of work on VSBA's end, and they did a great job. And we heard some great speakers, and one that, I don't know, you went to the breakfast, right? The Rhino?
The last one, the Friday?
The one that was that Tuesday.
Yes.
Yeah, and you were there too. And lady was talking about having thick skin.
The Wednesday.
Yes, the
Wednesday.
It was
good.
It was very good. Yeah, it was good. She talked about having thick skin. The thing I remember her saying is, no is a complete sentence. So, okay. No is a complete sentence. Yes, ma'am. No. Forget that. But there were lots of events and things going on, and I collected a whole lot of stuff that were on vendors' table. I don't know if any of you do that. You probably don't. I do it all the time. So I enjoyed it. Does anybody else want to comment? If not, let me hold on a second. Okay, you had a question?
Unrelated, I should go last because it's sad.
I'm sorry?
I should go last because it's sad.
Oh.
So if you have positive things to share, you should share them first.
Okay.
Because I feel like people won't want to share it first.
I just want to commend Coach G at the middle school. He received a kindness award. They had a pep rally and everything for it. I think it was channel TV 12, Richmond. So
they came here last month, didn't they?
Yeah, they were here. We recognized them last month.
It's been publicized in the newspaper and the media and everything. So we just appreciate the positive role models, our teachers across the board. Just not him, but we see it at all of our schools. So they're to be commended in the shape in molding our students. So we appreciate it.
I have a quick one.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chance to go with Dr. Cox, along with some other board members, to both the elementary school and the middle school for the meet and greets.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't tell you it just, such a great thing. If you have a chance, he's going to the high school week after next, I believe. 16th and 17th. I was walking from the parking lot in here to the groundbreaking. I had 5 students who I assume had been in classrooms that we'd gone in, who walked to me because they recognized me and knew me. And I had another teacher who told me at the middle school that a child walked into her room after we'd been there and said, "Y'all are not gonna believe who I met today." And they said, "Who?" "The superintendent." And he gave me this pencil. And it just made my heart soar. And so I'm thankful that you are doing that and that you are allowing us to come along with you. I appreciate it. It's been great.
Thank you. All right, we're going on to.
Okay,
now, you're right, I forgot.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry.
So it just seems that the timing worked out well for this. There's been others who have been important to the school district who have passed, but just wanted to share Rita Oldham Mosley, I think a lot of folks know, passed away on November 22nd of this year, and her long-term staff member at Prince Edward County Public Schools, student at Prince Edward County Public Schools, locked out of school, wrote 4+ books on this history, and just was a remarkable human. Her service will be this Sunday, the 8th, at 2 p.m. at Jericho Baptist Church. If anybody's available to attend, I know the family would appreciate it. I'll be there, but just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Classmate of mine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next thing is superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you. One of the things we talked about when I began here was listening and trying to extend that out to different things. So one of the things, I think I've said this before, but I want to say it again, but I think that actually started with your superintendent survey and the forums that you conducted, and I just heard so many positive things about that. I think people really appreciated that. And so kind of to follow that a little bit, since you kind of set the pace for that, I did a superintendent's internal survey. I gave y'all a chance to take a look at that. That has, we have put that out, and now we have collected those, and we got about 130 responses, which I really thought was pretty good. And so one of the components of that is that if people desired an interview, that we would grant that. And so actually we have already scheduled all of those, I think starting next week and going into the next week. So that's something we're really looking forward to, that gives people a chance that want to come in and be listened to in person to do that. So we're really looking forward to that. The other two pieces of that are the superintendent's advisory team. I believe we will have our third meeting since I've been here. I think our third meeting with them next week, and we just not only really appreciate their candor, but it's a very good group. And I think the things that they have brought to us are very meaningful and very thoughtful, and so we are starting to look at that. And then the final piece of that is the community advisory group, and that is actually a group that you nominate. We will have our second meeting next Monday. I personally thought the first meeting was phenomenal. Very dynamic, engaged group. I think very, as you would expect, very interested in Prince Edward schools, of course, and a wide variety of people. I mean, it was really nice, the range that we had. So we gave them an opportunity to give us input for the next meeting, and that was supposed to be this Monday. Of course, we would accept it later if we got it. But we have that as part of our agenda item. And I think the really neat thing has just been to kind of go around the table and give people an opportunity to talk a little bit about how they not only view Prince Edward schools, but how we all together look at the future and to see what the possibilities are. So I think the listening piece, it always pays off, I think. But I think the other thing too, I think we're starting to demonstrate, I hope, that it's also sustainable. And I think that's what people are interested in. It's not that it's 1 month or 2 months or, quite frankly, whoever's here, but it's that it's sustainable and it's something that we continue to do as an organization. So I hope that's the way people feel about it, and I hope that's something that will continue. So I just wanted to share those with you. And I did have a chance to go to Longwood yesterday, and actually had an invitation from the president to come and meet him. I was very gratified to get to do that. I also had a chance to talk with the dean of the education department. I think it has a few more categories to it, maybe health. And they were just all tremendous, and I really appreciated that opportunity. And you know, one of the things we talked about, and that we should talk about further, is Longwood is very, very interested, and I think we're very, very interested too, in really continuing to work on the partnership that we have, but maybe to add some new components to it. And one of the things we talked about was the student-teacher dynamic, and the fact that it's in our best interest for all of us to really work hard on that, not only to identify teachers in our school division that are willing to do that, but also to identify student teachers that want to come be part of Prince Edward. And I think the idea over time is that if we can kind of establish some continuity there where those student teachers, as they go on in their career, become part of our fabric, I think that's really something that will help everybody. So I conveyed the fact that we were very interested in that. I think they are very interested in that. And I think, I always kind of look at it as an acting superintendent. I'm trying to lay some groundwork for when the new superintendent comes, so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel, that there's some building blocks out there that they can move ahead on that have kind of already been established, or at least the relationship's been established. So I felt very good about that. And I just can't even tell you how much I enjoy the student meet and greet. I think this is probably the 21st time I've done this in my career, and I just thoroughly enjoy it. And I've said, I think it's so important for a superintendent to try to meet every student in the school division. And when you have board members that come, and I was very appreciative of that, I think it really turns into a very nice 2 or 3 hours. It really does. So certainly looking forward to the high school on the 16th and 17th. And it is very nice to walk through the halls of the schools after you do that, and you feel like you know students a little bit better than you did before. So thank you for the opportunity to do that, and I think that's it.
Okay. See anything on the correspondence? We have to go back into closed session, but before we do, we need to take a break. A little break. Okay, let's look at the clock. I wanna be out of here before 8:30. I mean, if that's a good idea for you, and but you wanna stay later, that's fine.
I wanna go to midnight.
Well, you can stay here.
By yourself.
Okay.
You will be,
5
you will
minutes.
be outvoted.
5 minutes, it's 10 till, tomorrow back at 5 till.
Yes.
I need a motion to go into
I move we go into closed session.
closed session. Second?
No.
All in favor? Thank you. All right.
No, we don't.
All right, Stacy, hold on just a minute.
Okay.
to go home.
All right, roll call vote. Mr. Townsend,
Yes.
Ms. Stiff,
Yes.
Dr. Ariadi,
Yes.
Ms. Kimbrough,
Yes.
Ms. Carson,
Yes.
Dr. Corbett,
Yeah.
Mr. Tackett.
Yes.
Okay,
I got it.
you got it? Okay,
Recommendation.
recommendation for.
Student
Oh,
dis-
that is something to that.
Student
I'm
A.
sorry.
Student A is
We're not
this
gonna-
one,
Yeah, student A would be that one.
this one. And that,
Student A, we don't say
and
that.
that is New Horizons.
Okay, recommendation for student A is New Horizons
And get to
And
graduate.
get to graduate
and get to graduate with a good report.
with a
from
good
New
report.
Horizons.
I move that.
Move it,
Second.
your second. All in favor?
You don't have a vote?
I am abstaining.
He's a-
Okay.
Student B.
Student B is,
2 weeks at, New Horizons before you can go back to
with a
school.
good report.
With a good
With a good
report.
report.
Somebody
move it.
Somebody move.
I move
Second.
that,
Second.
There's a motion in some.
All right.
So, I'm sorry, who moved and who seconded?
He moved,
I second.
seconded.
Okay, got it.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Okay, we
Okay,
got all.
now we're on,
Accepting the personnel report.
special personnel report as,
Personnel for-
I move we accept the personnel report as
Second.
presented.
second.
And Mr. Ariady seconded?
Does,
Okay.
can I ask a question before we approve this one? Is this the relocation thing as well, or is
Yes,
this
that.
just the others?
It does include
This-
that.
Got it, got it, got it, got
All
it.
in favor?
All in favor?
Everybody? Okay, did you vote yes too? I'm sorry, okay.
Okay.
Did you get what the motion is though?
Yes, sir, I wrote it down, to accept it as presented.
The personnel report.
Report as
The personnel
presented.
Report as presented, usually.
I think
it's,
but the personnel as presented is not really on the, is not on that,
Yeah, it is.
with the that move.
It was on there.
It was on there,
It was on there.
Okay.
Um, okay, and now I move that we release student C from compulsory attendance.
Second.
I second that.
Okay, wait, I'm so sorry, student C, I have a
C,
student
remove
D.
We're on D?
That's,
No.
cause C is, according to the agenda that I'm holding, I have C
Yes,
as the
it should be
action.
student D, just by the line. of
Okay,
the-
it'll be student
yeah,
D.
just
You're
the-
right.
You're
You're
right.
so
Okay, it is
right.
student D,
I just
okay.
was going through the alphabet.
I'm so sorry, okay.
It was the third student and I labeled him or her C.
I just wanna make sure I was taking the notes right, I'm sorry.
Yes, no.
You're doing great.
So student D, be released from compulsory school requirements.
Yeah.
Second, that wasn't.
Okay,
Who moved that one?
I did.
Okay, second, Townsend.
Okay,
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor, thank you.
okay, thank you.
Is that the last one? We don't have to approve the student discipline report. We don't have anything action on that.
What about E, the student appeal, did we answer that one?
Oh,
That one, yes, that one, it was withdrawn.
withdrawn.
Okay,
It's a
withdrawn.
moot point now.
Yes.
Yes. Uh-huh. And no vote required, and no more votes required.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to,
Second.
yeah, go ahead, second. To adjourn. All in favor? Bye.
Okay.
Order of pizza.
4:30.
January
Reheat my
15th
very
at
cold.
4:30.
She cooked.
To send it out.